Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. And yes, I missed my Tuesday evening post. Now, I tried to do it, I really did, and I was going to do a video, but Substack is not super forgiving with the videos. So if you click away or you stop recording, that's it. You can't add to it. So I lost that one because I was heading out the door. And then I was going to do a written one for Wednesday, but I thought it would actually be better to communicate this way about something special that begins today when you receive this, which is the 17th Wednesday of December. Let's begin, though, as we always begin, by recognizing, realizing, and affirming, especially as we near the feast of the incarnation of Christ, that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of the more and each other. The 17th of December begins something very special in the life of the church, and that is the O Antiphons. This is a very ancient practice that connects with the uh, daily prayer, which is called the Divine Office. And it is the prayer that you might be familiar with that is prayed specifically in monasteries and convents, also more and more these days by individuals. And the full prayer each day is 7 times. And one of the key times is Vespers, which is at sundown or early evening. Starting on the 17th, the next week during the Vespers prayer, a special O antiphon is prayed. Now, you might recognize these O antiphons from the very well known and commonly sung during this time, this season, O Come Emmanuel. The verses in that song are based on the O antiphons. Now, last year, when I first began doing the Substack during Advent, I did a write up, a reflection on each of the O antiphons. I don't want to go over that again this year. I am going to put in each evening's post a link to last year's O antiphon. Actually, I'll probably put it in the morning post. I do plan to keep the morning posts the same as I have done before as in Advent. What I'm changing, though, is the evening posts, all right, to kind of keep something special in this period of the O antiphons. So, the evening posts, I hope you've enjoyed what I've done so far with the music and the global goals and the theses for citizenship. I hope that's been helpful and meaningful for you. Going to change things up though, and I'm changing them by focusing on the well known, very important, and from 1321, 700-year-old Dante's Divine Comedy. Now, if you've not read this, it is really something to behold and has so many impacts in our society, in the way that Christianity is imagined and conceptualized. Quick summary, there are 3 parts to it. There is the Inferno, which is the most well known part. There is the Purgatorio, and then there is the Paradiso. Now, for our purposes, I'm going to be focusing on Purgatorio because in Purgatorio, we encounter souls who are already saved, and yet they are working a pilgrimage, climbing a mountain to fullness of unity with Christ. And I think that's a very Advent theme. And I think for each of our last days leading up to Christmas, our last days of Advent, while the O antiphons are going on, I will be sharing a little bit of the journey that Dante, the narrator in the Divine Comedy, that he makes through Purgatorio. Not in a literal way, saying, okay, this is, a belief of purgatory. Uh, I'll talk a little bit, I think, about purgatory with you and sort of, what I imagine the afterlife to be like, and this idea of purgation, or letting go or becoming more fully able to embrace the love of God. I think there is something compelling and important to consider there, but we will encounter Purgatorio on its own merits. And for what it can show us in a literary, artistic, poetic narrative about the journey that we are all making right now on this side of eternity, as we begin to let go of our pride and our other sins which hold us down, or as we talk about in the 12 steps, our character defects. And that's really what the story, the journey that Dante undertakes along with other souls in purgatory. So I hope you'll enjoy it. I am enjoying it right now, reviewing a number of different translations, a number of different tellings of the Divine Comedy. I read the whole thing a few years ago as part of a reading and podcast and kind of conversation group. And it's nice to revisit it now, especially in light of how the world has changed and how I have changed, and just how, even though the text hasn't changed, again, it's 700 years old, 1321, we change individually, collectively, socially, politically, and so forth. So look for that starting on Thursday or Wednesday, today, when you're receiving this. And I really hope, again, that it is something interesting and something that will encourage you to get more engaged, more involved in this truly, truly amazing work of art. So let's, before we end, pray the the next prayer for a planetary pilgrim. And this is an Advent Peace Psalm. This is again from Father Ed, Planetary Pilgrims. And he says that this is based on chapter 31 of the Tao Te Ching. And I looked it up, and that's all about peace, right? So this is inspired by that. So let us pray on this 17th day of December, 1 week to Christmas Eve, and the last period of this Advent journey. So let us pray. O Prince of Peace, whose advent we seek in our lives, come this day and show us how to beat our swords into plowshares, tools of life instead of instruments of fear. May your love strip us naked of all weapons and strategies of conquest, which are not the tools of lovers, wise ones, and God's children. Let us not lust for power, but rather strive for the insight to be guided on the way of peace. Let us not yearn for a victory that requires a sister's sorrow or a brother's shame-faced defeat. With tears, black suits and dresses, and toiling funeral bells, let us attend life's victory parties that are won at such a cost. Let us be Advent adventurers and peacemakers, hammering swords into shovels, filling holes and leveling peaks. Let us be disarmed and vulnerable, for only through such open hands and hearts can Emmanuel come. All right, y'all. Look in the notes here for Father Ed's writing for today. Again, I want to keep the Advent reflections consistent that he continues to share with us. Also look for a link to the first of the O Antiphons, which will tell you about the O Antiphons, and continue to look in the evening on Wednesday for the start of the Divine Comedy, Purgatorio. All right, y'all. Blessing and good. Be bold, be gentle, hold fast. Thanks.